Welcome, everyone, to Teams Unleashed. This is the podcast where we explore the art and science of team coaching and how to truly unlock the power and human potential of teams. I'm your host, Spencer Horn, president of Team Coaching International, and this is our inaugural session. One of the biggest shifts that is happening in the coaching industry today is this. We are moving from coaching individuals to coaching teams as systems. And today, you're going to hear what that actually looks like in the real world. My guest is Pollyanna. Oh my gosh, Pollyanna, I'm all of a sudden I'm panicking that I'm not going to say your last name right. So I'm going to say Lenkic, but I want to say that, and I'm like, oh, I was going to ask you that, and I'm like, Pollyanna Lenkic is it? I was right, but I was nervous. She's an experienced team performance coach who has worked with organizations like National Australia Bank, IBM, Telstra, helping teams dramatically improve both culture and results. And in the case today that we're going to talk about, she's worked with two organizations that had come together as one team, but instead of alignment, setting up the mystery here. What they had was cultural tension, unclear roles, low trust, a strong us versus them dynamic. And if you're a coach listening to this, I'm sure you've never seen that before. Or if you're a leader of teams, right, that happens. And here's what's fascinating. The capability was there, but it was buried under the dysfunction. So what Pollyanna did was help them shift from a group of individuals into a true team system. And through that shift, she saw remarkable results. We're going to share some of those today. They were amazing. Pollyanna, welcome to the show. So glad to have you here and excited to see what comes of our very first show.
It's absolute joy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You know, we were talking earlier just about your journey in coaching, and I'd love for you to share with our listeners what got you into this work. How did your journey start? Tell us a little bit about where this all came from.
You know, Spencer, it's the stars align, right? Be careful what you resist in life. I set my first company up when I was 24. I was a broke Aussie backpacker, landed in London with 40 quid in my pocket. That's 40 pounds. No return ticket home. Didn't know anybody. And this is before the internet, folks. So you got to find your way around somehow. And that was when I was 21, 22. And then when I was 24, I decided it was a really good idea to become a co-founder in an IT specialist recruitment consultancy, specializing in unit trusts, finance, investment management, which I knew nothing about. But when you're 24, it's a good idea, right? Why not? Took that to a large organization. We ended up with an £11 million turnover, 18 full-time members of staff, and 110 consultants throughout the UK. So big learning curve, as you could appreciate, lots of fun and a few tears. When I left that company, I had the crisis that everyone has. What the hell am I going to do with my life? I'm 34, I tried retiring, but then I was vacuuming and dust proofing my loft, and I felt that was not a good thing to be doing with my time. So I I wrote down what are all the things that I love doing about my job when I had my company. Not the titles, not all the whiz bang, business card ego stuff, just Monday to Friday. What did I do? How did I live? And what were the things I liked doing? And then someone said, that sounds a bit like coaching. And I'm like, well, what the hell is that? So from there, I spent 6 months researching what was coaching and found CTI. And that was a long time ago. That was back in 99, right? So walked into my first coaching class, and here I am.
I absolutely love that exercise that you did, just sitting down and looking at what excites me, what turns me on. You've heard of this saying that if you do what you love, you never have to work a day in your life, which is a load of crock.
Oh my God. So yes, so rubbish.
Such a rubbish statement. because I didn't know if you thought were thinking, oh, what's he going to say? This is going to be some cheesy.
Yeah,
But
no,
the
I'm right there with
problem
you.
is, do what you love so you can put up with all the stuff that you hate. Because no
Oh
matter
my gosh.
what you do, there's going to be challenges.
Yeah, and also, how do you want to live? I didn't have the
Yeah.
frameworks or the language that I now have, given the
Yeah.
coach training that I've had the absolute privilege to take part in. But
Yes.
how do you want to live? So I skydived, and in England, in London, I'm based in Australia now, as you know. Back then in the 90s, people just went to the pub at 11 o'clock and kept drinking. Well, I'm really bad at that. And all of my clients were a good 10 years older than me and male. So I went, that's not my gig. It's not what I want to do. It's not where I felt comfortable. All fabulous people, but not what I wanted to do. So I thought, well, why don't I just get a hop on the traffic and drive to the airfield and get 3 jumps in before the sun sets on a Friday? Isn't that a better idea? So part of that thing isn't just about what do you want to do, it's how you want to live. How do
Yeah.
you want to live? Well, I want to live with a 4-day week, and before someone wrote a book about it. Right? So how do you want to live is a really important consideration. Then what do you want to do to make that happen?
Well, and then, so you got into coaching, and you met folks at CTI, and you
Mhm.
happened to meet. Then I understand the founder of another coaching company called Team Coaching International. Can you tell us
Yeah.
about what are the differences you notice in say executive coaching, individual coaching, and what got you into the team or the systemic coaching side of that?
The both are incredibly powerful, as you know, but fit for purpose. What I loved about the team coaching is it gave my clients results that individual coaching didn't give. And added to the fact that the team leader, or the sponsor of the team, becomes part of the team in the process, is a game changer. So I could then have something for my clients that genuinely, truly provided results. So much so that I got a little bit carried away, Spencer. You'll laugh at this. I designed a logo saying 100% money back guarantee, right? Because
I
I got
love
so
it.
excited. But I offer that to my clients. I say, I will give you your money back 100%, no questions asked, if after, if you're not completely satisfied with the results you're getting. um, I've, to have a process where you can have that much conviction, and the reason I have that conviction is how robust this process is. Right? It's so robust. So you're talking about the biggest shift in coaching,
Right.
in the industry, systems coaching, systems thinking. TCI been doing that for how long?
20 years this year.
20 years, yeah. So I was one of the early adopters of, because I, was very privileged and blessed to know Phil. But so for 20 years, there's data, hard data, that shows that this work works. And not only that, when your clients, this is the bit I love so much about it, right? But what I love the most, at the end of a session, my clients, the people in that room, they go home. They don't have to run back to their office to catch up on all the work that they haven't done, because we're doing the work while we're working on the team.
Right
That
in the team coaching, and that's just
correct.
brilliant. I know just from the few interactions I've had with you that you are, and just even from your story right now, you're very results oriented. There's not a lot of fluff in the sense that don't give me rubbish. Let's get to the point. Let's get to win. Let's get to success. And when Phil and Alexis and really they 20 years ago, when they went to the coaching federation meetings and said, hey, we want to do this team coaching idea, she tells me that they looked at them like they were wearing foil hats. We
Mm,
always do coaching individually, and you can create some shift in organizations working with all the individuals, and then hopefully they shift the system. But nothing shifts a system faster than working with it all at once. Executive
absolutely.
teams, intact teams, working with them, you can make in a day and a half. My favorite is a day and a half, 2 days. You come away with work done, action plans, how we're going to work, how we're going to solve problems. It's just so amazing. And I love to hear that you have such great confidence. I mean, I put it on my website. You're going to see a minimum improvement of 20%. And I've seen financial results in a short period of time of up to 50% improvement in financial results just because of the work that we did. And we measure pre and post in terms of performance and engagement. And I love that because we can say, here's where you are now, and here's where you are after working with us. And I love that. Well, let's dive into I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, right? And
Yeah.
for me, it's conviction, right? Everyone loves a bit of confidence, but what about walking in the room when you're not feeling confident?
Yeah.
And it's early days, you've just trained on TCI, you're excited, and you're going, oh my God, you don't need confidence. Like, forget it. Like, we've seen what overconfidence does in the world, right? What we want to do is be convinced. You can stand in the process works.
Yes.
Right? That is gold for the practitioner and gold for the client. Right?
True,
and there's
true,
nowhere to hide, people. Nowhere to hide. You have
There's
a diagnostic. Right? When you've got a tricky team and they've got tricky situations, usually 3:00 day one, they attack the facilitator. Don't be scared, people. It doesn't always happen. But what happens is it becomes too much. The discomfort becomes too much, right? And you're trained for that in the TCI system. You know how to meet that. Right?
It's true.
3:00, I say to my clients, 3:00 day one, this is going to happen. It's all right. I've got it. Right.
I love that. So you're telling them it's gonna get ugly before it gets better.
Yeah, 3:00 after lunch, right? Graveyard shift. And what happens is you respectfully remind the team this is their results as they have defined it through a robust system. And the good news, we can shift this. Teams have been here before. This is why we're here. This is why we're doing the work. It's for you, by you. Oh my God, I get tingles. It's magical.
I love that. I have a friend that trusted me, Pollyanna, and she's a brilliant coach, very strong, wonderful person, just like you. I mean, you remind me a lot, just the qualities you have, just this confidence. And she worked for GE as an executive, and she has been coaching high net worth individuals. And she's just like, I met her at a National Speakers Association gala, and she's like, man, what do you do? I said, well, I work with teams and among other things. And she says, I just have never found a way to get teams to work well together. I said, you need to do this. So she's certified last month, and she is doing her first diagnostic. She's waiting for one or two people to finish that diagnostic. Yeah. And then she and I are talking tomorrow. So if you're there, Kimberly, I'll talk to you tomorrow. She is going to be doing her first. I'm so excited for her to do this and follow the process. And when you do it, magic will happen. So, let's talk about this challenging situation that you have. Describe it. What was going on? And I know you have case studies written, and I don't know if it's okay to talk about who it is, but if not, I mean, describe what kinds of.
Yeah. So it's really unusual, and I'm very grateful for these two organizations to engage in this case study.
Yeah.
Because it's unusual to have a client put their name on a case study.
So kind of say, hey, we have this dysfunction. But a lot of times people don't want to have that vulnerability. We were dysfunctional. It's refreshing that they will be willing to do that.
So here's the thing, though. This was a while ago, this case study, and it's not unusual, right? What is unusual was the generosity of the clients to put the time and energy into the case study, because they can't always, right, for many, many reasons. These leaders, in particular, one of the leaders is now CEO of another organization, has gone through this process, I think about 5 times. Each time she gets a new job, wheels me in, we do a team process, sets everything up right, I'm exit stage left. Next time she gets a new role, wheels me in, right? So this person is, you can run this yourself at some point. So that there's longevity in this process. But for this team, 2 organizations, not-for-profit, dealing with people who are financially vulnerable, very caring, just amazing, beautiful human beings.
Sure.
And based at the trendy, funky side of town, and and then you've got the corporate bank, beautiful human beings, but they look
totally different, right? Views of the world.
Well, no. So you would think that's an assumption, right? And that
I am making an assumption.
You are. There you go. So you get into a room. And so the way the bank provided funding for the not for profit shifted rather than saying, here's a bunch of money from our corporate responsibility team, team who had organized this partnership so that we can help do good in the world, right?
Ah, wonderful.
But the difference is you will work together with some of our team members, right? That was really new. And so you've got the first day was I just remember it. First day, we've got all the not-for-profit from Good Shepherd Microfinance in one corner, and all the NAB people in another corner. And I walked up to the two leaders, and I'd worked with the GM of the bank before in a team process, which is how she knew. So this was her second team process. And I
Yes.
said, look, she goes, what do you think? I went, you're either going to break it or it's going to be brilliant. So I said, I don't know yet. I'm not a gambling person, but I reckon 50-50, right? And it was
I love that,
extraordinary
but no
results.
promises. Listen, it's really on them, right? I'm going to do my best, but the rest is up to you.
Yeah, I've got that refund thing, so all good, right?
Right.
But really, this was the one that locked in the conviction for me
Yeah.
because the moment, so they, not-for-profit team, thought that the corporate team were just soulless, different from us. You're just money grabbing, money making, and they've all said this. It's in their case statement, right? So I'm not speaking out of turn.
So they made the
Um,
same assumptions that I was making.
they were doing exactly what you did, right? They're looking at how they were dressed, the color of their hair.
Yeah.
One had funky sneakers on, and one had high heels and brogues or whatever the dudes were wearing, right? So it's really interesting. They couldn't see the values or the value that each brought, right? Because we looked different. You guys, we just need your money, but can you just get lost? And you guys over there, you're really inefficient. So if you just got more efficient, we could work better together. There was a moment on 3 o'clock day one, it did go, and then we work with that, right? We meet it. There was a moment the next morning at around 10, 11 a.m. I'll never forget it. When you feel the air change when you're in a
Yes.
room, it
Yeah.
just went. And one of the team members from Good Shepherd Microfinance, seriously, I just get tingles every time I think about this moment. It's etched in my brain. She looked up and she went, oh my God, we want the same thing. We care about the same things. We're just coming at it from different angles. I've just read a book called Moral Ambition. Stick it on your list. It's great. I can't remember the author now, a chap from the Netherlands. And it talks about when you want to make waves and do good in the world, you need a variety of people to do this with, right? And that was the
For sure.
realization. We realized that we needed each other beyond just funding to do good in the world. But when I spoke to the GM of Good Shepherd after we did this case study, he said, not only are we working as a team and more effective together, the ripple effect in our organization, we are more efficient. One of the NAB team members saved 6 weeks a quarter, 6 weeks, and we calculated that against rough-ish his salary. That was $30,000 saved and 6 weeks back in his diary because his counterpart at Good Shepherd Microfinance, they now had a more efficient working relationship because this chap at NAB was incredibly efficient with his process. His counterpart was not. They combined resources, processes, they shared in a way. And he got so much from the other team member, how to connect with the work, the ripple effect of that work, why it matters. What do they say? Privilege is invisible to those who have it. Whoever said that. So his eyes were opened to a world that he didn't quite grasp. It was just beautiful. So the ripple effect of this work doesn't stop, right? That's
I
the magic.
I love this story so much on so many levels. It it
Yeah,
it, here's this underlying dynamic of just
yeah,
judging, literally a
yeah,
perspective of another team that is blocking
yeah,
you from working and learning from somebody who has cognitive diversity. You may look different, you may dress different, there's so many different types of diversity. But as soon as they were able to drop that judgment, they were able to create unity. They were able to create
Yeah.
team. They were able then
Yeah.
to appreciate the brilliance of each other. And when that happens, I mean, that just, first of all, it takes humility, right? Just to say, hey, somebody might know something more than me. Isn't that wonderful? Now I can learn from them. And life can be easier
Mm.
if we just get out
And
of our own way.
more effective. They created a positive ripple effect. They got more funding. More people were helped. Right, the focus
All of
moved
that.
away from differences. But team coaching and the process that TCI bring isn't solely about learning. It's about unlearning.
100%.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's the dynamic that had to change, that the unlearning
mm,
of how we work together. But I want to point out something that you just brought in. What is the first um, really assumption that we make in working with teams? The first assumption that TCI talks about is that, what is the purpose for a team?
yeah,
It's to
to get results.
produce
Yeah,
results. And it doesn't matter if it's a nonprofit, because the results of that nonprofit are more loans in the community, more people helped. It doesn't matter if it's a government agency, because again, it's more services for the community. Whatever the result is, our belief is that teams exist to produce that and more of it. And the more we can do that, the greater ripples and the greater impact we can have. Now, I'm curious, when that shift happened the second day. We teach our coaches that to really understand the energetic field. What did you do with that? How did you help them see that? Or did they see it on their own? Were you able to help them become more aware, and when that shift happened?
the room just went silent. And as a coach, you got to get out of the way.
Yeah.
you know so I just let it unfold. I always, we work in a circle. I also use large graphic charts. I custom large
You
6 foot
sent me one of
football.
the whole plans. It's
Yeah,
like 4 foot by 6 foot for the wall. I love it.
yeah. And so I had we were standing up around. They were doing some charts around values and stuff. I stepped back, right? So when there is a circle, we don't want to create dependency in the system, and that's, if you're new to team coaching, that will be part of your training. So the biggest mistake I feel that we as coaches make is when we
Yep.
think we've got the answers.
Yes.
Right? We don't have the answers. We
No.
we we hold the container. We have a robust process based on research, based on data, based on successes, for 20 years, but you have to step back, right? So when that happened, I just stepped back and let them all get on with it. And the conversation, from memory, the conversation was, good half an hour, 40 minutes. And you just spin those plates, right? When there's a pause and it feels okay, you come in, you do a thought starter, a prompter, and then you step back again.
We call
So I
that, for those of you listening, we call that spin and fade. You get the conversation started, you step in, and then step
yeah,
out and let them take over. That's a brilliant, and you did it so well. And I love that. We do not have to have the answers. It's so often, Pollyanna. I mean, I have lots of friends that are consultants. And so
mm,
it is a big mindset shift for them to come
yeah,
and do this work, because they feel like we're paid to give you answers, to solve your problems. That is the one of the other things that we really believe of teams, that the answers actually exist within them. They have it within them to solve their own problems.
yeah.
And so
And what,
teams are naturally
yeah.
whole, right? I mean, in many ways.
And this team were capable. These were senior people. They were capable. What they needed was to have the system revealed to itself. It's another TCI phrase, right?
Yes.
So let's reveal what's happening and let's meet that. And here's a framework on how. Robust team agreements up front, the setup, which is all in the training, right? Really robust setup, because you're going to need it at 3 o'clock on day one, right? At
Yeah.
times. So that container that is created, we just hold that for them. Um, and give them frameworks. And it's a lot of fun. It doesn't have to be miserable work, by the way. I mean, I have a ball. I mean, there was one point with this team where they were stuck on decision making. And there was a decision they'd been cycling around for 6-7 months. And we were at the corporate office running a team coaching session. And they couldn't make the decision. I said, well, where are you at? And we're like, we're 80% there. And I'm like, well, just start talking about it. Let's, observe what's happening. And so you observe what's happening and you observe the hamster wheel and the avoidance and no one's making a decision, all the usual garden variety human stuff, right? In high stakes decisions. So you pull out a framework, it doesn't matter, actually doesn't matter which one. And I know some of my friends who do this work get really annoyed with me when I go, actually doesn't matter which framework you can use.
Oh, well, no, you have to use this one.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's the conversation and the pattern interrupt that comes with that, right? So,
but I think it works for you because you actually do trust the team is going to get there.
Yeah, and if they're not, we've got tools to use. So in the end, I said, so all you have to do is test your message. Oh, look, it's lunchtime. There's a whole bunch of people in the kitchen. I'm going to go out and get 10 of them, and you've got 30 seconds to prepare your message to test it with an audience. And I just walked out because there's a whole bunch of your senior leaders in there and they need to test a message. All you have to do is go 0, got no idea what the hell you're talking about, or 10, I get it. And then just go back to lunch. Who's up for it? Well, Stampede, everyone's up for it, right? So we had about 20 people in the room in the end. And I'm like, right, team, go. And they tested their message. They got 2s, 3s, and 1s. I'm like, thank you for the folks. They went out. They did it again. I got them back in. Now no one's leaving the lunchroom, right? And I just said, come on back in, folks. And so they came back in, they did the message again and they got a 10. And they're like, oh no, well, we'll park this now until we can talk to the CEO. I'm like, okay, who in the room would the CEO pick the phone up to? And the CFO went, well, that'd be me. I'm like, well, get on the phone then. Call him. And do what you need to do. So that 6-month decision was done with laughter, fun, and it was nailed in half an hour, right? So they had a ball.
I told you I'd accidentally cut you off. I didn't mean to.
I need that because I've got a bit of a cold, so that was good timing.
So there's a couple of things that have really stood out. First of all, it's what you said in the beginning is you're actually doing the work. We're not just coaching and getting everybody to, sing Kumbaya like we were talking before the show came on. We are teaching them how to work. And it looked at it another way. In many cases, the team is capable, but they have learned helplessness. And so you are there to basically say, here, you actually have the capability, and let me show it to you. So you undo that. That's the unlearning that you're talking about, the learned helplessness that needs to be unlearned. And as soon as they do that, it's fun for them, which is why it's fun for us.
It's fun. Dysfunction doesn't have to be terrible, right?
Dysfunction makes so much fun for all of us.
And be respectful. I'm not, there's times when you hold the space in a very respectful way. That team, we'd worked together for a while. It was okay. I mean, they were a bit confronted by it at first, but they'd been working with me for 6-7 months and it was good. I mean, I worked with a team recently and they had 37 public policy items to nail. And we did it in a day using the process, right? They didn't have the budget for a full team process. We did the diagnostic, we did a 1-day debrief, and then they said we actually just need to get through these policies and get it to the minister. We have to do it. 37 policies, and there was something like 3 or 4 sub items underneath each one. They all went home and had dinner with their family that night.
Okay, so we're going to talk about ROI in just a second here, but that tells me that in a day they are getting a huge return on the time investment that they spend with you. And I'm wondering if coaches are listening to this and they're saying, wow, this is a threat to my ongoing coaching fees that I charge for individuals. If I can fix their problems in one day, it's like they're not going to need me. It just came to my mind. I don't know if that's a question that somebody might be asking.
Gosh, that's a good question. Here's the thing. You do your job well, they don't need you anymore. I'm really clear on that, right? But they do refer you.
Yeah.
So do your
because
job
what
well.
Percentage, in your experience, what percentage of teams have it all together?
It's not about having it all together. It's about, we live in a world, and the people I work with, like the senior leaders that I work with, same as you, they are under intense pressure. They have the skills, they have the capability, they don't often have the space to work through what they need to work through. So it's taking out the noise in the system so they can focus and get clarity on what they need to work on together. So, and sometimes it is a capability uplift. Sometimes it's a framework that does elevate some capability. You know, you'll pull in something from a leadership program that you did in the moment because that fits. Right? You've always got stuff in your back pocket as a facilitator and coach. You know, we don't do one thing. You know, I run leadership programs, I run team processes, I facilitate. You do strategy. So you just get something out of your back pocket and go, actually, I'm going off piste for a moment, and we're going to do this because this serves the team. So when you
You
serve the team, it's not about you, right? If you create dependency in a system, then I'd have issue with that, because that's not serving the team. It's not serving the client. Build capability in so that they don't need you. And then when they get a new job, they get you back in again, right?
I'm co-coaching a client with Peter Hord. I don't know if you know who he is, from Sweden. One of our TCI coaches who's been with us for many, many years. He's a brilliant coach. And anyway, we're working with a major client, number one airline in the world, and preparing for this team coaching engagement. I think we edited our agenda 8 times.
Yeah.
And then after the first day, this was a 2-day retreat with them, we had edited it 6 more times.
Yeah.
Just because we're dancing with what's showing up, and we need to say, okay, we need to adjust this. We need to, we need to do this because of what there's. So you come with a plan, but you have so many tools in your back pocket that you can really, really adjust. And I just read, it was, I think, April 9th, that Gallup reported the new management engagement data. I don't know if you've seen that. And I think the data was for North America. So I know we have people all over the world. You're in Australia. But engagement for managers went from 2022 from 31% to 22% in 2025. And part of the reasons are just what you are talking about. They don't have the space to think. They're taking on so much responsibility. Think about AI implementation, for example. Individually, it's improving productivity, but the complexity of implementing it is really on a lot of management's shoulders right now, figuring out how to work it. Teams are spread. You're doing more with less. And so the anxiety and the stress and the pressure from above and below on management is huge. And so what you're saying is that even the best of teams that have all the resources need someone that can help move the needle with them.
Yeah, benefit. And when you think back to the case study, which was, we've been sort of focusing on a little bit, one of the things that had to shift was the 2 GMs who were like the two, I used to call them the 2-headed leader of that team. They were parenting their team, right, rather than leading their team, because they were having to. Everything was escalated up, everything. Conflict, misunderstandings, challenges. So one of the things that part of that process was to support them to use a coaching approach to get their team members to resolve it themselves. So a big part of the process was teaching the team to level up to their skill set, to have the conversations that needed to have. And that's why constructive interaction was such an important uplift for this team, because they didn't know how to do it. Right. So
Will you describe that to people? Because that's a competency that we're aware of in team coaching. But constructive interaction, describe what that means and why that's typically something that a lot of teams really struggle with.
Yeah. And look, and it depends on where you're coming from. Really, we had to get them, if you're familiar with below the line, above the line behaviors, we needed to get to above the line behaviors. And how do you have a conversation when we are in absolute disagreement? We feel there's a values clash. Everything you're saying to me, I want to, push back on. How do you have those conversations? Well, some people will avoid, some people will come out, fighting, some people, bringing the conversations into the room rather than in the corridors afterwards. And so it's a skill. It's a big conversation. So and the good thing is it'll be part of your training when you do the TCI training. So teaching the team to sit in the discomfort. What do humans dislike the most? Discomfort. Why is change such a big challenge? It's not the change itself, it's not the process, it's the discomfort. And as humans, we, the great royal we will do anything to avoid discomfort.
Correct.
From avoidance to those below the line behaviors to it being ignited from past situations and using the energy of that in this situation.
Yeah.
There's so much. And then obviously in its extreme, there's addiction. That's numbing, right? So we numb. So teaching the team to sit together in discomfort was a really important part of this process. And I mean, just beautiful, amazing humans who went with it. Literally, I had them sit in discomfort. What's the most uncomfortable thing you could say right now in this team that you'd be happy to say one-on-one for the person that you're really have good rapport with and feel safe with? Who's willing to speak that into this system right now, relevant to what we're talking about?
What happened when you did that?
We sat in silence for 8 minutes. Do you know what it's like to hold the space for 8 minutes? Excruciating. So that's where you have to know as a coach, when do you sit and hold the space, monitoring that arc so you pick it up before it goes down the cliff, right? So we sat in the space, 8 minutes, just sat there and I just held the space.
I love
And
that
we
so
felt
much, Pollyanna. So many people would feel uncomfortable, like I'm failing as a coach. Nothing is happening, but huge movement is happening.
And here's the thing, you feel all that. You go, oh my God, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Do I need to, right? You do. So
Imposter syndrome. They're going to fire me.
Yeah, I'm failing my client. So get out of self. That's when you know as a coach you're in self.
Yes,
And
exactly.
when you're in self, get out of self, focus on other, focus on the system, just do the process in your own mind. Before any process, any coaching client, any systems process, before anything, what do? You prepare yourself, right? So it's not just about being in the room. It's not just the timeline. It's how do you prepare yourself emotionally to meet the team and do the work that needs to be done for the team, right? So the arc felt uncomfortable, stayed with the team and someone did speak. And they just said, I'm going to give it a go. And I'm like, and everyone else's job, really tight boundaries. Everyone else's job was to hear and sit with it before anyone spoke. It was just amazing. They were amazing. They were this team are in my heart forever. I mean, I still, see them all at various new organizations, but they were courageous, right? Humans, we talk about, coaching concepts around, hold them as creative, resourceful, and whole. That's what it means, right?
That is, it is exactly what it means. One of the ways that I've addressed that is actually creating an agreement around disagreement. How do we disagree? How are we going to behave? Who needs what? And to make it feel safe, just like we do in the very beginning with teams. That's a process or process, depending on where you're from, that you can do at any time. Let's create an agreement. How are we going to be with each other in terms of constructive interaction? Is really about how do you disagree? How do you look at different perspectives? And it's one that many teams struggle with, and it's so important. The other one that you focused on that they struggled with, as you said, the managers were parenting. And that tied closely to accountability. Yes. How did you address that?
Well, accountability was really lacking on the team because there was a lot of blame in the system. So think about those Gottman behaviors, lots of blame. So we unearthed all the blame first. What does blame look like in this team? What does contempt look like in this team? Because there were seeds of contempt. And there was a moment where the team's going, no, there's no contempt in this, in our team, in our system. And I'm like, that eye roll that just happened like 30 seconds ago, that's the seeds of, right? So full-blown contempt, as we know. And I've worked with teams where there's been full-blown contempt, and that team can't carry on the way it is, right? It's beyond repair in its current form. That happens. So for
and
this
I
team,
love that we address those toxins in that is one of the most dangerous toxin if it's sustained, right? And if they're not admitting it, then obviously it has the ability to stay in the system.
So we're in the quad of the Gottman, blame, contempt, stonewalling,
Yes.
criticism. We're in that quad. We were there for an hour and a half, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they were there. I did give them chocolate brownies. So they were there for an hour and a half, right? Talking about what does it look like in this team? What does it sound like? What's the impact of that? How does it feel? All the senses. We mapped it out for blame. We mapped it out for contempt. We mapped it out for
stonewalling.
Yeah, mapped it out. And
so
then
just if you're listening, please envision this. We put a quad on the floor, just a simple, y-x axis, and in each of those four quadrants, we put one of Dr. John Gottman's toxins. The four toxins of relationships, or the apocalypse, what he says. So what are they? Stonewalling, blame, contempt, and defensiveness, right?
Yeah. So blame and defensiveness go together. In the Gottman
What's the other
model,
one?
it's defensiveness. But I see now I've gone blank. Right? Blame. I know this model so well. Blame, contempt, stonewalling, criticism. Is it criticism?
Criticism is the same as blame. I thought, yeah. So here we are. So we have to prepare ourselves going in the class, and I hear I didn't even prepare. We're just asking off the. This is the wonderful thing about going blind, going live.
No, and you don't have to remember everything. I've only been running this model for 20 years. See, you can have facilitator fail.
Yeah, geez.
I also have a big poster of the Apocalypse of the Four Horsemen, in a thing. So it's all, it's up there. Look, you can look it up, right? It's all good. But the important bit that I've added is I have a flip, right? So how do you get out of that? So I have a flip model as well, where I say
criticism and blame. It's criticism and blame. It's defensiveness is by itself, and then stonewalling, and then yeah.
Well done. Yeah, so have the flip model. So don't just leave them there, right? Because that's not much fun.
No,
brownies don't do it, right? So have the flip. Instead of what would be more constructive. So you're leading the witnesses to when it's like any sort of bias we hold. It's hard to remove it. Think about all those limiting beliefs. Hard to remove it. There are limiting beliefs in the system. Hard to remove it. When it comes, acknowledge it and then go, well, what's the alternative behavior approach? Right? Much easier. Right? So I give them a flip model to move forward.
I have a question for you. When you're in that toxins quad, and maybe they're a little bit reluctant, what would your recommendation be for a coach to maybe set the example and say, because I personally own that I can do contempt and I get defensive. So I straddle. I'm like, these are both, if I'm honest, these are the two that I fall into. Do you ever, set the example and say, hey, it's okay to be honest? And here are mine.
I just tell them the human condition. Welcome to my favorite phrase is welcome to the human condition.
Yeah.
It's just part of being human. We choose whether we act from there. So I give a team example. I don't give a personal example because I want to keep them in the team state. I do say this is worthy work to do on your own. And for the purpose of us working together, we're going to look at what it looks like in the system, in the team.
For the system. Excellent. Yeah. So this is a great point, because sometimes what will happen is that people get confused because they're like, well, this is what I do. And you are keeping it only at the system level. And I think that's great.
So for coaches listening, have stuff in your back pocket, And, I love that back pocket. It's a bit bulky, isn't it, the back pocket? Um, but have examples. That's part of your prepared spontaneity, right? I love prepared spontaneity. I skydived for 15 years, and before every jump, we did 15-minute emergency drills just in case, right? 8 jumps a day was my happy place. So that's 15 minutes times 8, right? So it's similar. Prepared spontaneity saves you when you need it. Have all those extra things that you might need on a prepared spontaneity timeline that you may not ever use, right? But have it there in your back pocket. That's
Yeah,
what that
that's
means.
wonderful. Pollyanna, talk about how the team diagnostic helped you create awareness and buy-in, especially when maybe the team that was initially resistant. So for those of you who are listening, we have a diagnostic where the team measures where they are on productivity and positivity. There's 14 elements that really enable us to dive into at multiple layers. And so how does it help you create awareness and buy-in, especially when they might be resistant? And then the second question is, how nervous are they to actually see their results before you, as you start? And does that add to the 3 o'clock pushback a little bit?
Um, yes to all of that.
Yeah,
It depends on the team, of course. So ensuring that you're not making up assumptions about the team when you review the results is a really important factor. So ensure, we always prepare. We look at the results before we go in, and then, it's a bit like your timelines: prepare, then throw it over your shoulder and work with the room, right? So it's a measured process. It's a game changer for the value you give to your clients. A lot of people have had frustrating experiences with team days, right? It's all happy and nothing changed. Connection's really important. The World Health Organization has deemed loneliness is the biggest health epidemic of our times, right? So connection is important, but a coin minted on one side has no currency. Friend of mine, Gunter Swoboda, shared that quote with me, and I love it. So thank you, Gunter. So a coin minted on one side has no currency. What makes this powerful is we connect, lift engagement, positivity traits, right? If you know the model. And then you have productivity traits. The magic is in the intersection of the two. I think if a two-sided ven can solve most problems. So therefore, it's a measured process. It's not guesswork. It has 20 years of robust results behind it. When you sit with a team leader and you say, if they have had circumstances where they've done a team session and nothing's changed, talk about that. What was missing? What happened? What was frustrating about it? Well, here's how this is different. We measure the system. It holds up a mirror to the team. There's nowhere to hide from this. Sometimes I say that, sometimes I don't, depending on who I'm talking to and how nervous they are, right?
yeah.
But there is nowhere to hide. And it's not just a mirror, it's data, right? Against 14 key team strengths based on robust global research. This isn't just I might just draw a nice little model today and pick some nice colors and go, wow, look what we've got, right? In the same way, the Gottman model is based on robust research.
Over 30 years of
TCI,
research.
correct. TCI's model is based on 20 years of research. So you've got case studies. Even if you've never run a team process before, go onto the TCI website. There are case studies there, right? So you've got case studies of this working globally across every sector, different cultural contexts in country. It works, and that's the key difference. It is a commitment. So being very clear, what does the client need right now? What do they have capacity for? Is it a team day that they need, or is it team effectiveness? They're two very different things. Team effectiveness is the team coaching process, and that is a process. And it is a process. I don't know who's woken up one morning and went, I really fancy a 6-pack and being really strong and fit. So you go out and you buy the gear, whether it be a bike or yoga mat or whatever it is, or a gym membership. You have one PT session. How's your muscle tone? Not happening if you never get back into the gym again, right? So if it's a team process, there's work to happen. And the reason it's a process is people can practice, course correct, implement, test some stuff out, and then they come back, and then you keep moving that,
And you want to make
moving the
sure that this
timeline.
is not just an event that then
Mm,
lets them off the hook, because yeah, we've done it before. Well, the difference is that we're going to start off and really give you this huge inoculation, if you will,
mm.
of against all the challenges that you have, and help you to come together as a team. But then that needs to be ongoing. So with this engagement, talk a little bit about that. How did you structure that? How long of follow-ups did you do? And what did those look like?
Yeah, so I use the team coaching process, right? We're trained on this. This is what team TCI does. So I just followed the process. I think the first timeline I ever got, it's pretty much what I'm still using. And I adapt and I grow it and you change it,
Of
but you've
course.
got the bones of it, right? So it's the process. It's the start with the team well, obviously all the debriefs, consultation with the leader of the team first, prepare them for the process. Understanding the context, what's happening, the challenges, where the leader needs support during the process, and what that looks like,
Yeah.
as well as the team. Then we do the diagnostic, ensuring. I always ask the team to do the diagnostic within a 3-day window together, because then, if we can, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we try and get them to do it at least in that 1 week
I
window.
like that, Pollyanna. I really like that, because then it is a slice in time, and things change, even from the time they take the assessment to the time that you do the retreat or first engagement. There can be even differences.
Absolutely. So then we have a 2-day offsite where we reveal the results, and again, that's part of the training. You'll get your 2-day timeline. It's not going to be guesswork. It's tried and trusted and worked, and there's an amazing community, which I still tap into when I go, oh my gosh, I just worked with this team and this happened. So that can happen, right? Then I give my client. I don't know what I'm interested to see what you do. I give my clients a choice between hour and a half team coaching every month, or every 2 months a 3-hour session. And that happened because some clients just liked it. So flexibility in the process, right?
Yeah.
I recommend it doesn't go longer than 2 months. And then at the end, we measure again, another diagnostic, and have some fun with it. I mean, with this team, as you know, the results were extraordinary. I got I'm not going to sing it to you because that would just be embarrassing. But I put the results up, and what's that? There was
You
some
can't
space
be
odyssey.
embarrassed, Pollyanna. Be honest.
I can. I think I put the space odyssey, that orchestra. I was like, doo-doo, and I revealed the results. You can have some fun with it depending on the team.
Yeah.
And they were so excited because the results were so tangible, and relate it back to business results as well, because then they have to speak to their stakeholders. Right. So it's not, yes, the connection and the camaraderie and the working together is incredibly important. And here's what it meant for the business. Right.
Well, I,
So
I and
this
I
is
want to
like,
answer your question, but
yeah.
we're it's amazing how fast time has gone. I don't know if you know, so we've almost been talking for an hour. Um,
Oh, goodness.
would you, just so we don't run out of time, would you share some of the, so accountability increased by their own measure 69%?
Yeah. So at the conclusion of the system, I've got to remember this. There was an uplift in positivity in the team by 39%, and an increase in team
39% of
productivity.
all 7 elements of positivity. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
47% on productivity. So trust increased by 38%, communication by 37%, respect by 34%, constructive interaction by 60%, right? And they are all positivity strengths. Leadership increased by 52%. Leadership in this context isn't the leaders, it's leadership within the team, right?
Leadership
That was
capacity
extraordinary.
throughout this team.
Yeah.
What was, so
Yeah.
in terms of ROI that you measured, savings and all of that, and decision making? You
Yeah.
talked about how much faster and more efficient their decision making was, and I imagine they measured that.
Well, yeah, decision making went up by 48%, and accountability by 69%. Right. So there's a lot of tangible ROIs in that, including the 6 weeks back in your calendar, including faster decisions, extra funding, less time spent in conflict, more time spent aligned doing the job, doing what they were there to do together. So you have to remember that all of these extraordinary individuals had their own teams that they were a part of in their own organizations, right?
Yeah.
So this was almost like a separate project that was pretty much a full-time job. They took those efficiencies back into their own organizations and into the other teams that they were a part of and that they led. So the ripple effect was extraordinary.
Well, I don't want to embarrass you, but I hope you charged them the right amount.
Absolutely, because
Good.
absolutely. And that's the other thing. When you look at the cost of the program, I always say investment for my clients, because I
Of
believe it is
course.
an investment. It's an investment of time and money. So I will often say to my clients, I say 25%. I say, when I look at all the work I've done, clients are getting 25% uplift on, in their teams. What would that mean
Is
to
that
your
top
bottom line?
line, bottom line?
I don't know. I just sort of say 25%. I don't specify it until they ask me for
Yeah.
specifics, and then I'll give them specific case studies,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
what that means for the business, and
Yeah.
what that means for the output and the money saved, right? And I think it's important to have those case studies. And again, if you don't have them, TCI have them.
We
So when
do.
you do the training, you have access to that.
I want you to be confident to, if you're listening, to charge based on the value that you're bringing. I remember, Pollyanna, I was referred to a client, and I did the diagnostic, and
Mm.
I have a pretty robust fee. I'm not going to, share that, but they're like, wow. But by the time we were done, they're like, now I understand. Now I
Mm.
understand. But, sometimes we're afraid to say, what would it be worth to you if you were able to increase your productivity by 25%? What's it
Yeah,
costing you to stay where you are right now? Um,
correct.
well, let me just answer your question. So I'm actually in a client engagement right now that has been interrupted by the Gulf War. So we had created a 6-month engagement. It's really meant to be an initial engagement that hopefully spreads throughout the entire organization. So it's a different type of team engagement. 30 executives of individual teams. So we can't do a true team diagnostic, but we're doing team leader views with all of them and the team
Oh,
coaching process. And then that hope is that they will, but working with the team leader with all the outcomes like we normally would. So it's a really interesting hybrid, but it's a 6 month. And what we're doing is 2 months of um, 90-minute coaching for like
yeah.
7 cohorts. So we do small cohort coaching virtually. So we'll break them into 4 or 5 groups, and then we'll have a 1 day in the middle. We started with 2 days, 2 months of 90-minute coaching for those cohorts, 1 day, and then 2 more months of 90-minute coaching, and then finish with a 2 day. So we have 5 live days. And on top of that, I am doing one session with each individual to just do some. They're really needing help right now. The geopolitics, how it affects the airlines, is enormous, and then they're
Yeah.
based right there in the Middle East. So
Yeah.
um, they need all the help they can get.
Yeah, it's a tough time out there for everybody. And the other thing I'd probably recommend for people listening is, have a network of coaches, because there are times, if individual team members need coaching or would benefit from coaching, and that happens, that falls out of this program. It's a personal preference. I choose not to coach them. I choose to stay to the system. And I have other coaches that, we've all got, friends in the industry, colleagues in the industry. I refer them on to them.
I think that's great, and really addressing the system is so powerful, and knowing how to do that. I love that you have that collaboration. So for coaches who are listening and want to create this level of impact, what's the first shift that they need to make in how they approach teams?
Get trained well. Seriously, I could not have done this work if I didn't have the training,
Yeah.
because that is such a big question. There are so many shifts that happen to be able to work with the system. I don't know that that's an answer I can give you in 1 minute. I would say be trained well. I invest in my training and development so that I can give my clients value rather than just rolling out what I did, last year. I recently recertified with Team Coaching International because, and I went, oh, God, I forgot about that, right?
I
Why haven't I been doing that?
I love that.
It's good. And then I had the joy of co-running a masterclass with Alexis, one of the co-founders of TCI, when I went out to Hawaii, so I was on the same time zone for America because I'm not at my best in the middle of the night in Australia. So be trained well and have a good network of people to bounce off to ensure that you're running good process and good practice, because we can all get lazy. We can all fall into bad habits. It's our job as coaches to stay current, to stay relevant, and to ensure that we're serving our clients.
Do you ever co-coach?
I love it. Yes, all the time. If ever I'm there.
So here's what I want to ask of you. If there's someone out there who's doing team coaching and you want to connect with Pollyanna, how can they reach out to you and get to know you? How, if you're a business leader who wants you to come in and work with them, how can they reach you? And because you're just so fabulous in what you do, I'm just so grateful for all that you've shared with me and our listeners. And so how can people find and get a hold of you?
Probably the easiest way is search for me on LinkedIn. Send me a message, but please personalize it, because I just delete all personalized messages, because LinkedIn is an interesting place, right? Sometimes they're good connections and sometimes not so much. So personalize an invite so I know who you are and where you've come from listening to this. You can email me. My email address is Pollyanna@PollyannaLenkic.com. So my first name and then my surname.com. Reach out to TCI, reach out to
teamcoachinginternational.com. And you are leading a masterclass in July. Is that right? For people in Southeast Asia, in New Zealand, in Australia.
I haven't been told about that, but love to.
I don't know. I thought you were. So there's something happening. There's going to be something happening, but there's going to be a masterclass, I think. So maybe I've jumped the gun, but if you're out there and you're in Southeast Asia, you're in Australia, and you want to get certified in July, we want to hear from you. So message Pollyanna, message me. We'll figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah, and I'll make it happen. Also, I'm in London in September, so let's make something happen there.
In September. Brilliant. So I might be just across the channel there.
Well, let's do something.
I would love that. So lovely to meet with you. Stay on. And if you're listening to, this is our first episode, we hope that you like and subscribe to our Teams Unleashed podcast channel. Thank you so much for listening. And Pollyanna, thank you so much for your generous time. It's been such a pleasure for me to learn from your brilliance, and your generosity is so much appreciated.
You're too kind. Thank you. It's been an absolute joy. And reach out if you're listening. Reach out here. We're part of you're part of a community.
Absolutely. Bye-bye now.
Bye.